Let's do it. Okay, cool. Well, it's very nice to see you all again. I have an announcement. I have a surprise. It's here. Thank you. It exists. It actually feels really weird. So this is the first edition. And this was the first one I had made, and it's a little bit thinner, and it wasn't quite formatted correctly just yet. And then this is the new version, which is thicker, and I'm very happy with it. So what we'll do is I'll pass it out in a little bit, and you can have a look. But I'm very happy with how it turned out. Not just yet. But I'm making a few little adjustments, a couple of formatting issues I want to address. A couple bits and pieces, but I'm very happy with it. I'm very happy with it. Thank you. It's that's it. It's like, yeah. I like to say it's handbag size. Yeah, it's perfect. No, I'm very happy with it. So I'll pass it around in a little bit, but thank you very much. For a little while, I was like, is it ever gonna get done? Yeah, I know, especially because I was promising that it would be done last Christmas. like last Christmas. Last year, I mean. Anyway, no. So, I thought to get kicked off today and this year, it would be good for us to go into a little bit of physical activity and exercise. And provided you're happy to do so, at the end we can get moving a little bit, get warm and loose and whatnot before you leave here. How active are you at the moment? Do any of you feel like you want to be more active? I know you were just mentioning getting in the gym. Do you have anything to report?
I go to the gym anyway.
Yeah? Nice. Okay, good. And have you always been consistent with that? Has that been relatively new?
I've always done some sort of exercise even from my early 20s, and it sort of came and went. And then when I wasn't well last year before, it kind of peaced out because I just didn't have the energy. But towards the end of last year, I got back on it and back into it. I've always had a personal trainer anyway every week, so even if I didn't get to the gym to feel well, I always did the personal training.
Nice. So there was always that baseline, of activity.
Going on, but not probably as much as I wanted it to be.
Okay.
Once I felt a lot better, I got back into it.
Good. And how do you feel? Do you feel the effects of it at the moment?
It's a really weird thing because I feel more of the effect when I have personal training. I sort of get home and it's almost like I get in the shower and I can feel that hit.
Yeah.
So when I get in the shower, I don't know what it is. It must be the timing or something, but I feel that effect the minute I get in the shower. And okay, right, here we go. I think my body's got used to the cardio, so I'm trying to change that up a little bit.
Okay.
Just different routines and stuff like that. But yeah, do generally feel some sort of benefit. It does make me feel better.
Good. All right. Nice. Anybody else? Anybody want to increase their activity levels? Yeah. Anything in particular that you're thinking you'd like to do?
I need to start.
Cool. Okay. Is that a weather thing? No. Just one of those things. Okay. We all go through those phases though, don't we? That's okay. Anybody else? Anything to report?
I increased my exercise as a result of coming to your group.
Nice.
And I got to the point where I actually need to see if I'm Usually that hump where it's like, this is hard, this is...
Yeah.
And then I got to the stage where I couldn't for... wasn't well, so I couldn't for a couple of weeks. And then I felt careful, not as a result of where I've been ill, as a result of where I hadn't actually been active enough.
Yeah.
So I was just really delighted to get to the point where I missed exercise. That was something I always prayed when people say, I really miss it. If I miss a session, I thought, I never ever had that feeling. And when that came, I was like, brilliant, I've got there. I've got to the point where actually
Yeah, I know what that's like.
I can feel the benefit.
Yeah, that's nice.
It's been really positive.
I get that feeling. I whenever I haven't been out in the gym in too long a period of time, I start getting twitchy. Like I can't sit still. I get kind of like I feel my muscles are like, use me. Yeah. So no, we're gonna add to what we've just talked about today. But one of the reasons why I really like this topic is because, well, we now live in a world where you don't have to be physically fit to survive. You know, if you think back hundreds, thousands of years ago and longer, we have always had to be physically fit in order to survive, right? We would have had to travel vast distances in order to find shelter and food and water and all the rest of that, right? You would have had to be able to run away from predators. You would have had to be able to chase after prey and forage and all of those things that, like, you know, helped us to survive, right? Nowadays, we don't live in that world anymore. Now we live in a world where if you don't want to walk somewhere, you don't have to walk there. If you don't want to go anywhere, you don't really have to a lot of the time. Most of the things that we need or want, we can have delivered to us. So why would you exercise unless you have kind of a desire to do it, or you're feeling motivated to do it because of your health or whatever it may be? You know what I mean? So with that, I think this is a good topic to discuss, because although we don't live in that world where you are required to be physically fit, that doesn't mean that our health and our happiness would not be better and improved from doing more of it. And then eventually you do get to that point where you're like, oh, actually, no, I need to kind of keep incorporating this in my life in order for me to continue to get the benefits and feel positive, right? So we're going to go through a bit of the history. So there are two people who have really influenced a lot of modern day medicine and health, the way that we think about it today. We've got Hippocrates, who I'm sure you've heard of. Hippocrates was the first physician in recorded history to prescribe exercise to a patient who was suffering with consumption, or as we now know it, tuberculosis, which is actually still something that is said that you should do. And that was many years ago, right? Hippocrates was around from 460 to 370 BC. And yet, along the way, I think some of us, well, not some of us, but like collectively, we've kind of forgotten how important the exercise is. There are so many other things to consider as well, so that kind of convolutes it. Then we've also got Galen. Now, Galen, he followed in Hippocrates' footsteps. He's also a Greek physician from around that time. He was actually one of the very physicians that instructed the gladiators at the time with how to take care of themselves. So what exercise regime should they do? What stretching should they do? All kinds of things like that. It's fascinating. Now, up to the modern day, actually what they had to say really stands true, and we can take a lot of information from what they talked about in the past. In fact, Galen, he started getting into health when he was about 16. And then what he would do is he would go around teaching about it, and he taught what are called the 7 laws of health. So it was things like breathing fresh air, drinking the right beverages, eating the right food, managing your emotions, having a daily bowel movement, considering your sleep, all the things that we talk about here. So it's still very relevant, which I really like. Now, when I'm saying activity, really I mean anything which is involving voluntary bodily movements. So a lot of the time when we're talking about exercise, you're thinking go to the gym, run, swim, walk, stuff like that, more conventional types of exercise, right? But realistically, if you were sat down in a chair and you were just moving, if you were stood up in, the kitchen making an egg or something and you just decided to move a little bit, like that does count. And then you add that up throughout the day and the week and the month and the year, and then suddenly you've got a lot more exercise under your belt. Now, the other reason I'm saying this is because I think today people feel quite bad if they aren't, going to a personal trainer 3 times a week. Like, if you aren't doing that, then maybe you feel like you're not doing enough. But actually, even if you're doing a little bit here and there, you can still say that you're happy with that. You can still say that you're proud of doing that. Could you add to it later? Sure. But that doesn't mean that what you're doing right now isn't good, Does that make you feel any better about, because I know that whenever I talk about exercise, immediately people have kind of an initial reaction where they kind of pull back a little bit, because exercise is kind of I don't know, it's a bit of a weird topic. right? People either like it or hate it a lot of the time. And if you don't enjoy it, then the idea of exercise, especially conventional exercise, can be quite off-putting. So this, I think, makes it a lot more grounded. You know, what are your thoughts on this so far?
Yeah, I think like anything is better than nothing. That's kind of like what
Yeah.
I think. So yeah, not to set the bar too high.
Yeah.
I think it's mainly things like leg warmers, sweatbands,
Yeah.
high
Yeah.
energy stuff. But yeah, it's to make it accessible, which is
Yeah. And if you make the barriers to entry too high for yourself, you're not going to do it. You're not going to do it. My dad's talking about going to a gym over in Harlow or Ongar, but we don't live anywhere near there really. And it's cool because he'll get like a month free, but then after that month, yeah, you know, going somewhere 45 minutes away is very different from going somewhere 10 minutes away, right? So it doesn't have to be conventional exercise. And with that, it could be anything. It could be housework, cooking, it could be gardening. Now, you know, gardening is one of those seasonal kind of activities. So maybe you need to find something that you can do year round, plus seasonal activities that kind of dip in and out. But again, hopefully that makes you feel better about what you are doing. In fact, there's a really good app. It's called Active 10. Have any of you heard of it before? So Active 10, it's supported by the NHS, and essentially what it does is it measures every minute of exercise that you do, and then it clumps them together in what they call Active 10s. So every day or you measure it today and you go, oh wow, I've done 50 minutes of exercise today. From that point, it's a lot easier to then say, I'm going to boost that up to an hour. Whereas if you haven't measured the activity that you've done and you didn't realize that actually you've done quite a lot of activity throughout the day, it might feel more discouraging. And then if I said to you, you know, try and get that up to an hour, well, you don't really know how much you've done so far. So that's one of the really good reasons for using an app like that. So that's called Active 10. It's quite good. Now, there are so many benefits of becoming more active, and the benefits that you get will be dependent on the type of activity that you're doing. But generally, these are the kind of benefits that we see overall. So the heart muscle gets stronger, and instead of beating like this, it beats like this, because it's stronger. It doesn't need to beat quite as frequently. Improves our endurance, so your ability to go further before you start getting out of breath and get tired. Improves circulation. Decreases blood pressure and cholesterol, improves energy levels, which I'm sure we can all do with, right? Improves sleep, another one. Controls blood sugar and lowers the risk of diabetes, another one that relates to absolutely everybody, really. Releases dopamine and endorphins, which can help us to alleviate stress. Improves joint health and mobility, another big one that I think a lot of people struggle with. And then increases strength and balance. So, how many of you are picking out at least one or two reasons up there for why you could be more active? Anyone in particular?
Stress.
Stress? Yeah. Yeah, really big one. And I know people who besides from the other benefits, primarily exercise because it helps them deal with the stress.
Exercise because I like it, I do it because it gives me a good sort of all of that.
Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah.
That's going to make me more tired. It kind of seems to contradict, but again, once you do
Yeah.
less sluggish than what you do.
That's like that thing if I've had like a long day at work and the last thing I want to do is go out for a dog walk.
Yeah.
And I'm just want to get in because but I always know I feel better
Yeah.
after, even though I feel like I've got no energy and I just want to shut the door and get pyjamas on, I will do better if I go out and do the walk.
Yeah. Most of the time I find that we won't regret doing the exercise, but you might regret not doing the exercise. Not that you should, but that you're more likely to regret not doing it than doing it.
Somebody once said to me, you never walk out of a gym going, oh, I wish I'd done that.
Yeah, precisely. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've overdone it and then been like, oh, I should chill out. But overall, yeah. Now, I'm always pretty happy that I made the effort, you know. So, the activity you do and don't do will contribute to how well your body functions overall. So I always say to people, you know, if you want to be better at standing up and sitting down, you need to be standing up and sitting down. If you want to be better at walking up and down the stairs, you need to be walking up and down the stairs. And the things that you are not doing, those are the things where that gap is going to get bigger. You know, so for example, the other day, I had my granddad from the States visiting, and it was really nice. He came along to one of my martial arts classes because he likes to watch. He was big into karate when he was young, and he could, for his black belt test, he had to fight like 12 people. And he had a hernia at the time, and it was nuts. But now, you know, he's 85, and he's now struggling to do things that he didn't struggle with then. And so we were in the kitchen, and I was like, oh, you should do this one. You remember I showed you the balance exercise? You know, you just hold on and whatever, I'll stand on the one leg. And I told him to try that, and he was like, ooh, because he was surprised by how poor his balance has become, which he didn't expect. So he was like, okay, yeah, I need to do this. Because in 5 more years, you know, that gets infinitely worse that way. So there are different elements of your fitness that you might want to consider. There are 4 main components of fitness. Besides from that one that you just saw, do you remember any of the others? That's one of them. Yeah, so now you've got cardiovascular, you've got strength. Nice. I just mentioned one of them. Yeah, balance. So let's start with this one. So cardiovascular fitness refers to how well blood is transported around the body while exercising. Now, it's not just exercising per se, but it's how well the body is getting oxygen and blood and nutrients out to the muscles that need them. Right? So this involves your heart, your lungs, and your circulatory system. Your lungs are taking in the oxygen, your heart is pumping the blood out, your circulatory system, so your blood vessels are actually holding the blood and helping it travel out to where it needs to get to. Now, if you find that you get out of breath very easily, this is the area that you might want to focus on. And any exercise that you do that involves your heart rate rising, your breathing rate rising, and blood flowing more around the body is a type of cardiovascular exercise. So again, you could be sat down and you could be marching, you could be moving, you could walk up and down the stairs a few times, you could go into the garden, you could go for that walk. Swimming is always a good one, cycling, stuff like that, you know, the conventional ones. But again, it doesn't have to be conventional. But this is an area that you might want to work on. Now, this is something that I'm working on myself, and I'll save this part for in a bit because it's more relevant later. But I've been working on this, and I've been swimming. And I've really been feeling the difference. Like, I've not been feeling so out of breath when I've been training, and I'm finding that I'm able to go a lot further. So my endurance has definitely improved. So this is my area that I'm working on. Who else feels like they could work on this? Okay, any idea how at the moment? If not already. Yeah, nice. Nice, so you raise a really good point, which is that it's not all just about the activity that you do, but the way that you do it. So it could be, at the moment, you're walking 2 kilometers a day, and half a kilometer you walk quicker than the other 1.5. And that could be how you approach that. Or it could be, right now I'm doing 2 kilometers, or I'm doing, 4,000 steps, and I'm going to increase that to 5,000 steps. Or I'm gonna add in a little incline. So there's a hill that usually I don't walk up, but I'm gonna start walking up that hill. Those could all be good methods that you can use, you know. Next one, muscular strength and endurance. So it refers to the ability to generate force with your muscles, and for how long. So how many reps can you do, how many times can you use the muscle, and how much force can you actually generate? Now, this is one that relates to absolutely everybody, because how many of you have found that either maneuvering yourself or maneuvering everyday objects has become more difficult? Right, getting up and down, walking up and down the stairs, lifting that basket that normally was fine, but actually now it's starting to feel a bit heavier, stuff like that. Have you got examples of that?
and sometimes growers come to the office to collect their bags of seed. And when I started there, these bags came 15 kilo bags, and now I think I've turned, which I find quite funny because I just think that's a really weird way of exercising, is to carry seed bags.
Yeah, that's quite,
people's cars.
it's very specific.
Yeah, it's just a weird thing to do.
Wait, so has that become more difficult?
No, much easier.
Easier? Oh, because you've been training, right? Yeah, nice.
Yeah, pick up to and off I go.
Yeah.
I couldn't even do the 15 kilos when I first started. So, yeah.
That's a good example of, even though that is,
A really
like, clearly you're exercising, but that's an example of it being part of your daily life, right? Yeah, nice. So, anytime that you are able to put your muscles under strain, they will benefit. Not too much strain, but not too little strain, right? You could use a resistance band. I don't have one with me. But maybe at some point we could get a bunch in and we can do something here together. Or, if you were to get something heavy, like a backpack, you get a backpack, you put maybe a book in it or something like that, and then you can put it on, you could put it on your back and you could walk up and down the stairs with that. Or, if I'm holding this and my arms are weaker, I could use this as the weight itself. Or I could do something a bit more conventional. I could go get a personal trainer. I could go to Pilates. I could follow a YouTube video. There are loads of things you can do. But I want you to consider what particular areas are lacking. Because it's great if your lower body is still quite strong, but what if your arms are weaker? That will eventually be a problem if I don't address that, right? So it's not just overall, am I strong enough, but are there particular areas that could do with strengthening? Do you have that? Do you have any areas that you're like, I know that my core needs to be stronger? You know what I mean? Yeah?
I'm familiar with core, and I didn't realise, but I had a few back issues, just coming and going. And then I started doing general strength.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking, I haven't had a back issue for a long time. And
Yeah.
it just seems too much of a coincidence, I feel like my core has got stronger and that's supported my back better.
Yeah,
So
it's very likely.
less pain,
Yeah.
that's a win-win.
Yeah. Yeah, when you start, it's funny when you start to tally up all the benefits that you've seen. Yeah. Nice. So I can't emphasize it enough. This is a really important part, because if you think about it, the muscle that your body has, that's adding to your frame as well as your strength. So not only do you start to lose muscle as you get older, which means that you lose strength, but you also start to lose the frame itself. You might feel more frail, and your shoulders slump a little bit more, and maybe you've got less muscle in the back which hold the shoulders back, and so you start to slump a bit more. There's loads of different ways that you can apply this, but it's important. Next one, flexibility. Another one that applies to everybody. How many of you wake up feeling quite stiff and achy and immobile? And this is a big issue for a lot of people, especially when it gets cold out, especially if you've got issues like arthritis. Suddenly it becomes that much more painful. You don't want to move as much. You're worried that you're going to injure yourself. But those are the very reasons why you should be working on your flexibility. Because if your flexibility is better, your mobility is better, your movements are easier, you're hopefully going to be at lower risk of injury. I always give this as an example. Let's say I've got a really stiff shoulder, which I do. I've got out of all the dodgy joints I've got, my shoulders are the worst. And let's say I am walking past this table and my shoulder is really stiff and I snag my arm and I pull it really quickly. If it's cold and it's stiff and it's achy and it's immobile, what am I going to do? I'm going to injure it in one way. Like, I'm going to feel it for sure. Whereas if I'm more flexible and I've been working on the joint itself, like it's more flexible now, I snag my arm, it's nothing, because this movement is a lot easier than it would have been had I been stiffer. Right? So suddenly your risk of injury goes down, your actual movements get a lot easier, there are some movements that I do quite often that hopefully we'll have time to do, which I use to just loosen up my shoulders, because they get so stiff, and to the point where if I go like this, I get the clicks. It's this one's an important one. How many of you feel like you could work on your flexibility? Okay.
I have frozen shoulder, and I have a problem with the back.
Mm.
So it's very difficult to know exactly which exercises are better or what you're doing wrong.
Yeah.
You know, so at the moment, they said for about 2 months, my shoulder has been so, but it's just trying to find out what kind of exercises will do me well, as well as having scoliosis in the back.
Yeah, that's
so
tough.
I live with a constant pain. But I think, yes, the exercise is very important.
Yeah.
But then what is the right exercise to do?
That's a good point. That's something that I do feel like I maybe take for granted myself, because I've always, like, I've been a personal trainer since I was 18, but before that I was training since I was like 12. So I'm lucky in that sense that I kind of just know intuitively what movements to do, but I understand now how many people don't have that as like a preset. But what we'll do is I'll show you some movements that you could try, and then hopefully those are things that will translate to things that you could do at home. And then I always say that the best thing you can do is just start moving and seeing what movements feel good and what movements don't, and then doing more of the better ones, and then building up like a repertoire. So if you go on YouTube and you find like a beginner video, you might find that you can do all of those, but you can't do the intermediate. So if you stick to the beginner for now, you might be able to get to the intermediate just with practice and time. But I'll show you some options. Okay, and then the last one here is balance. Now this refers to your ability, it refers to the stability of your body and your ability to maintain your center of gravity. So stability of your body is more than just this, right? Stability of your body is like, well, can you stand up without using your hands, for example? Can you, if you're moving, if you're walking and you kind of lose your balance, can you center yourself? And then it also refers to specific areas of your body. You know, if you are stronger in the knees and the hips, you might find that your balance is better. Whereas if you struggle with those areas, you might find that your balance is worse. But actually improving your balance can help improve the strength of your knees and your hips as well. So it's another one of those where actually I should definitely work on it, because I will reap multiple benefits. That one's an easy one. For this one, the example I always give, 2 hands on, 1 foot off, hold that position, and then bit by bit, find where I feel comfortable to let go. And then I could do that while I'm brushing my teeth. I could do that while the kettle is boiling, while the microwave is on, again, you could weave it in for yourself. I found that this was the best way of healing my knee after I did my knee in. And my knee was bad for a while. And then something in me just said, why don't you give this a try? And then I just started to balance every day, and that healed it right up. It's really interesting. And there are loads of people who have told me that they've done the same thing and their knee issues are gone. So I can't guarantee that will be the case for you. However, it's worth a try either way.
I've been doing this every day since you told me about it,
Yeah.
last year in whatever week that was, and I still, I've done it this morning, that's for sure.
Nice, good.
I still do it every day now. It's become like, I don't even realise I'm doing it
Yeah.
all the time.
Nice.
Oh,
And have you gotten better?
Yeah, 100%.
Good.
And I can feel it. Situations like where I would have fallen over, or where I've like caught myself, or I just have been able to like overstretch and do a little gardening and stuff. And I've really noticed that.
Nice.
I've been a lot more
Good.
centered.
Nice. Good.
And I can only put it down to this is the only daily thing that I can do.
Yeah. And it's nice when you think about the investment versus the payoff.
But it's hardly any investment.
Precisely, but the payoff, the upside is so much higher. But actually, what are you doing, like 30 seconds a minute a day, probably?
Yeah, like I did my toothbrush is like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Toothbrush time minutes, I do a minute on each side.
Nice.
But I was ill back in December, like this for a couple of weeks, and I didn't do it. It just kind of went out of my routine, and I noticed when I went back to trying to do it again, quite quickly,
Yeah.
gone back down.
Yeah.
A bit, which is weird because I thought so many minutes.
Yeah. Another reason why the consistency makes such a big difference, right?
That's why it's so good, building that into a routine, so then it's just automatic.
Yeah.
Also, to benefit from an exercise you don't even break sweat for, like that is so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't even have to have a shower after, like change your clothes or whatever.
Yeah.
You can just access it, it's so easily accessible.
Absolutely. And again, that adds to the person who doesn't want to exercise because they don't like exercise and they don't like the idea of getting, sweaty and getting, spending a lot of time in the gym. Well, actually, I'm doing this for 30 seconds every day. My balance has gotten better and now I haven't fallen or injured myself, and that is a really big deal.
When I first started, I couldn't do it without holding on to something, and then it was like I could only lift my foot about a centimetre from the ground. Now I can just like hold my leg up, bend it, and
Nice.
it's progressed. Yeah, like really.
Nice.
Yeah, no, I would say because I'm already doing something else.
Good. Good. All right, so that's everyone's homework. You're going balance while you're brushing your teeth later tonight.
It's tricky, but yeah, it's sort of like tricky when I don't know, you change hands on the toothbrush, and suddenly it's like that whole kind of changing legs thing is like that. Yeah, and I do it's like, yeah.
What I've heard is that it's a good challenge for the brain because you're doing more than one thing at a time.
And I was doing it, and then my hygienist, my dental hygienist said, your teeth are like better than they've ever been. And I think it's because I was brushing my teeth for longer to get balancing.
Yeah. In a year, they're going to be like, you don't need to be brushing your teeth for 10 minutes. But yeah, all of that adds to what we're saying, right? That it doesn't take a lot, just those little adjustments, right? So that brings me to this. Progressive overload. This is the idea that we need to gradually be adding bit by bit by bit in order to sustain the improvements that we want to see. So, it doesn't have to be that we do end up brushing our teeth for 10 minutes, but maybe we'll add 10 seconds, maybe we'll add 20 seconds, maybe we'll add the extra 100 meters or 1,000 steps, or maybe this week I'm gonna try and add 100 steps, and next week I'll try to add 100 steps. It doesn't really matter how you do it. The point really is, in one way or another, I wanna push myself to make the improvements. Not force myself, because if I force myself too quickly to progress, that can be a problem, right? But taking it step by step. So gradually increasing the difficulty will cause your body to adapt. That's what you've experienced with the standing on the one leg, right? No matter the level you are currently at. So it does not matter what rung you're currently at, because if we're all just trying to move up the ladder, it doesn't really matter where you're starting from now. So if you are down here and you're feeling a little bit discouraged because you're not as active as other people in the room, firstly, I think that's a perfectly natural feeling. But also, maybe take that feeling as as a motivator of okay, well, I'm going to use that as my inspiration. I want to go and do this activity, right? Now, the other thing I would say is these are my recommendations for you. Address your gaps. Based on what we looked at today, what are the areas of your fitness where you feel like you are lacking, and what could you do to fill those gaps? So this is what I was going to talk about before. So I told you that I wanted to improve my cardio. And I said to myself, okay, I've always loved the idea of it. I want to get into running. Now, on paper, I've always liked the idea of it. However, in practice, I've tried running before and I always hated it. So it was kind of like a romanticized idea in my head. And I said to myself, tomorrow I'm going to get up, I'm going to put on my shoes, and I'm going to go for a run. Who wants to bet whether I did actually do that? I did.
If you put your shoes on and walk the road rather than run it.
I could have done that, but I specifically wanted to improve my performance at a higher level. Like, I wanted to feel out of breath. I hate running. I hate it so much. So that happened for a couple of weeks. And I was getting frustrated at myself. I was like, come on, you do this and you go and talk to people, but you can't actually go out and run. And I was like, okay, I need to reevaluate, because clearly this isn't going to be a long-term solution if I'm already struggling to get started with it. And sometimes I guess the getting started is the difficult part, but if I know in my head I'm never really gonna commit, right? So anyway, I instead decided that I would go swimming. And I work at a David Lloyd in Chigwell. And so I get free, use of all the facilities, because I teach swimming there once a week. And I teach swimming there, which means I'm already at the pool, which means that all I have to do is literally move from here to there. and I'm doing the work. So I decided that was what I was going to do. And actually, I am a swimmer. Like, that, swimming was my first sport, and I competed at a very high level. So it's not like I'm a novice or anything like that. So I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And then I started going.
Where did the running come from? Why didn't you just do the swimming? What was that all about?
Because you want to be a runner.
I wanted to be a runner.
You're a swimmer.
I thought it would be cooler. No. I know. And that's the thing, because I feel like that's what a lot of people do. We'll come up with an idea of how we're going to do it, rather than going with the thing that actually is probably the best solution, but maybe you didn't think about it. I just didn't think about it. So anyway, start swimming. It's going really well. I think I've done maybe like 5 weeks. There were a couple where I couldn't go afterwards, but I've been pretty consistent. I've even just gotten for Christmas, I've gotten waterproof earphones, which my fiance got me, yeah. And I uploaded loads of music to it, because that's one thing. I enjoy swimming, but I get bored quick, because it's just you.
I'm like that on the treadmill. I have to have music.
Yeah.
Listen to an audio book because it's just boring.
Yeah, precisely. So I decided I'm going to download these albums. I'm going to have a new album every week, and I'm going to make that a thing. So I'm addressing my gap. It's a small change, because realistically, I'm already at the pool. I'm not really adding all that much for me to actually get into the water and start swimming. And my schedule itself hasn't changed. So that's been really quite ideal. Make the changes enjoyable. Well, it's so far been a lot more enjoyable than the forcing myself to go for a run would have been had I actually gotten to that stage. And lastly, don't do it alone. I've got friends who come along with me sometimes. Sometimes I do it on my own, but a lot of the time they come with me. And again, even though you can't hear each other when you're under the water, I still find it nice to know that I'm not the only one there. So these are some of the recommendations I would make, but I think especially that first one. Because remember, that gap gets bigger the less I address it. So if you are thinking to yourself, like, what he said was true, my flexibility is really poor, I do get injured, and I do feel quite stiff and achy a lot of the time, well, imagine what that's going to be like in a year, 5 years, 10 years' time, if I don't address that sooner. Then I would encourage you to make a plan. Now, you've seen this before. This is the structure that I like to use in order to make a plan. So we've got the aim, which is the big thing that we're working towards, and then we're breaking that down into goals and actions. And if I can focus on my actions, so I focus on the bits that are highlighted here, the bits that are bold, then hopefully the long-term change will follow, right? So the aim here is I want to lose weight, I want to improve my blood pressure and improve my blood sugar. But the problem with that is that that's quite a big thing to work towards. Anybody would feel quite daunted by the prospect of doing all of that, right? If I said to you, go forth, lose weight, lower your blood pressure and lower your blood sugar, I think that's a lot to take on board. So if you break that down, it becomes a lot simpler. So I've got a broad goal. A broad goal, which would bring me closer to all of the above, would be to exercise more. But that's still quite broad, right? So let's make it more specific. My specific goal is to create an exercise plan which fits my schedule. Okay, we're getting closer now to something that I could actually start to weave into my daily life. My weekly actions, I'm going to go to a fitness class once a week. That's it. I'm going to start with just that fitness class, because if I do that, it's better than nothing, for sure. And then if I start to really enjoy it and become consistent, well, that's going to make it a lot easier later, especially if I want to start adding more to it. And then on a daily basis, all I'm going to do to begin is I'm going to walk from a further bus stop every morning. And that means I'm getting more steps in to my daily life. And again, if I am enjoying that, then I might do that again in the afternoon. Maybe I'll go for another walk on my lunch break. But at least if I start there, then I've got something to build on. Then later I can adjust this. I can add more things. I can take something away if it wasn't working. I can try something new. But the point really is, okay, I'm going to focus on these. And by focusing on these, I've done that, tick. I've done that, tick. And I'm working my way towards this. And that's really what we're trying to do. But if we focus solely on this, that's more daunting. If we focus on the day-to-day, on the actions, on the things that you have control over, it gets massively easier. So that there is my plan for you. And again, you don't have to do exactly this. Take a picture of this if you want. Make your own version of this when you get home today. And then when you come back, tell us about how you implemented it. But how many of you feel like this actually is something that you could do yourself, this specific one? So imagine if you made it your own, wrote out your own version of this. You could make it infinitely better for yourself. And that brings me to the end of this bit. Yeah. So I'm going to leave this up. If any of you want to take a picture of this, please be my guest. And then what we'll do is we'll spread out a little bit. We'll get moving. We won't do anything crazy, but we'll get moving a little bit. While you do that, would any of you like to see this? Okay, so I've got two versions. I've got the first version and the second version. If you're holding the first version, you'll note that it's a lot thinner, like the paper's thinner and the pages are a bit wispier, but the new version looks a lot better. So I'm just telling you. Here, have a little look. How's the... Oh yeah, you did have it. This is it.
What's that one?
That's just another one.
That's another one.
That's another one.
Two books?
No, it's in like another copy.
So it's two prices.
No. This is actually... Okay, so what I'm doing right now... We are. Well, hopefully, yeah. Okay, so the reason why it wasn't out for Christmas is because that version of the book I had to change a little bit. Because I've never actually printed anything, the formatting I had to readjust because there are parts that gets eaten up by the spine. So then I had to readjust that, and then I realized that if I readjusted it, I could actually get higher quality paper for no extra cost. So then I got that version, and the pictures and everything look better as well.
You printed that yourself?
Yeah. Well, I got it printed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'd have no idea how to actually do any of that.
Just do it as a... Well, yeah, you wouldn't get obviously the...
Yeah.
But you could do it as a booklet format on your...
Yes, that I could have done that. But no, I'm really happy with this one especially. I'm really happy with how it's turned out. And then this is the latest. There's going to be, I'm ordering a third edition soon, which will be a little bit better than that. Hopefully we're good to go. So we're almost there. Yeah, so in that... Yeah, so in answer to your question, the content is slightly more specific in the book, but it matches all of this stuff. So in fact, that structure I made for the book and then started using it in the presentations. And then all of like the animations and stuff pretty much match what's in the book. So when you come here, you'll see something very similar, and then you can kind of read and revise it in more depth in the book, which will be cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Improving the exercise. I've got some of these attention bands.
Yeah.
Sometimes the arm reacts to do
Yeah.
body is using muscle than it did before.
It's a good question. It depends what kind of pain you're feeling and when you're feeling it.
It's more of an ache than pain. You know?
Okay.
It's a case of, okay, you've done enough, stop there.
Yeah. And are you feeling, is that a feeling that you get as you're doing it or later?
As I'm doing it.
Okay, so if you're feeling like a kind of a burning feeling, but it's not painful, and you've done a good few reps already, that's build-up of lactic acid. So when you get that feeling, lactic acid is a waste product that builds up because of all of the changes that are taking place in the muscle when you're using it. Now, that's a good thing. It means that the muscle's being used. It means that it's working as it should, essentially. If you get too much of a build-up, you might feel quite achy afterwards, and you might feel quite achy like the next day. But again, that's more of a sign that you've done the right thing. However, it can definitely go past that, where if you are feeling a lot of pain, then you might want to slow down, take a break.
It's just actually as I'm doing it, the following day, it's fine.
In that case, I think you're good.
And the other thing as well, I try and do when the weather's a bit nicer, an hour's fast walk each day.
Nice.
And recently, I found that my calf muscle just on one leg really tightened up,
Interesting.
and that became quite painful. I thought, almost to the point of hobblers. I thought, okay, I'm not going to do this for a few days. Is that again an adjustment to the exercise, or is it again the body saying you're doing too much?
It depends. It's difficult for me to say without, talking to you about it more. However, what I will say, if it's on one side alone, it could be how you're actually walking. For example, if you're favoring one side, you might put more pressure on the other. That could do it. It could be, I know some people who, like one of their shoes, it's a little bit uneven at the bottom, and so the way that they walk is different, and that can pose a problem. It could be loads of things. What I will say though is that there's some stretches and stuff that you can be doing that can help get rid of that feeling. So when we do the stretches right now, I'll show you a few that you can do. But yeah, it's gonna be cool. So, are we all happy to do a bit of activity? Before we do, did you have any other questions for me? Anything that you want, any more talking stuff before we get moving?
Just leading on from that conversation, have you got any thoughts on, I don't know if it's tendon pain, I've practiced yoga for years, and in the last 2 or 3 months, I found I've had a real deep aching sort of in my hips, sort of down here, and they say that women go through the menopause and they lose estrogen. I'm not actually sure that will affect you. And I spoke to my yogi about it.
Yeah.
She said it could be just that you're pushing yourself, and you're becoming more flexible.
Could be that.
But it doesn't, it's hard for me to practice now.
Yeah.
Do you find getting up in the morning with that? Because that's what I find everything with it.
How long have you been on the HRT?
About 8 years.
Oh, okay, so it's probably not that.
Kind of system.
If I'm honest with you, again, it's another one. It's difficult to, Same thing though. I would look for stretches and movements that help to counter it. Because it could be that you've been more active. It could also be things like the weather, like, when it gets colder, those kind of issues pop up more. And then it could be also remedying that, more hot baths, massages in that area. For most things, if you're feeling muscular or tendon pains, if you take your thumb and run it up and down that area, that can relieve it, get more blood in that area, that can work.
Perhaps also maybe see an osteopath.
Yeah.
Maybe be able to diagnose what's going on, and then they may say, you might need to see a chiropractor. Chiropractor manipulates the bones, whereas an osteopath manipulates the muscle around the bones.
Yeah.
So it could be one or the other. Start with the osteopath and the muscle to see if that's something that
Yeah.
is an issue, and then they could probably tell you what you need to do to
Yeah.
to that.
I might have some stretches we can try today. We'll give it a go. We'll see how you find it. Okay. Were there any other questions for us? You might want to, we're going to get warm. We're not going to get warm, but we'll get warm. Okay, here's what we do. If you spread out a little bit, just give yourself enough room so you don't smack anybody if you go like this. You can keep your chair with you, by the way. We're going to stay sat down.